undetected using this mountain pass.
In this idyllic mountain village on the border between Austria and Italy is where some of the most nefarious war criminals who escaped Europe after the war went through. Behind me is the guest house Venaders. We're on the Austrian side of the border with Italy.
Just past the inn, there's a high mountain church protecting the opening to the pass.
Documents are great for telling us the hard facts of history, but there's nothing like being on the actual spot itself. A little while ago, we were in the town of Innsbruck looking at a file about the Odessa organization. There was a map on that file. Well, now we're on one of the passes across the border from Austria to Italy that is mentioned in that map.
The trail is steep and exhausting, but Goni reaches the top.
This is the highest point in the Brenner Pass. There's the border. Over there is Austria, Germany, for all the Nazis who crossed right here. I mean, on that side there was justice, accounting for their crimes, the Nuremberg trials, and on this side is freedom.
Finally, Goni reaches the end of the trail in the Italian town of Brennerbad, where he believes members of the church may have met the SS officers who had fled.
Pretty much the whole story is told right here, because there we have a church which signifies the priests who met the Nazis as they came off this trail in Italy and provided them with forged documents with new identities under false names. And we have the train tracks, because here's where they boarded the train to go to Genoa, from where they would cross the Atlantic to a new life on another continent. It's a hard pill to swallow, but our duty is to trying to get as close to the truth as we possibly can.
Mystery Quest is searching for answers about the notorious Odessa organization. Trying to explain how some of the most villainous Nazi war criminals could escape without a trace and without explanation. The team has followed clues to Paraguay on the trail of SS officers Martin Bormann and Joseph Mengele. They're looking for evidence that would indicate that Bormann escaped to South America following the war. Documents called the Terror Files have led to this German-styled inn.
Mengele and other Nazis would have found a lot of German sympathizers here in southern Paraguay, and particularly in this area. This is the Hotel Tyrol, which was a social center for Germans in southern Paraguay. The architecture somewhat mimics the southern European architecture of the Tyrol, where Mengele and other Nazis passed through on their way out of Europe. The roofs slope as if they're waiting to carry the weight of snow, but of course here in the jungle, the snow never arrives.
The hotel is open, but virtually empty. Wood finds a row of rooms slightly removed from the rest of the hotel. Among them is room 26, which he discovered in earlier research.
According to Simon Wiesenthal, in the early 1960s, Mengele knew that he was a wanted man and he was being hunted everywhere he stayed. In this room, which he occupied in 1962, he received a phone call at 1 o'clock in the morning and immediately ran away. He scampered into the street in his pajamas, Soon after, a group of men arrived at the Tyrol, demanded to see his room, stormed it, and found it just recently vacated.
Wood asks about the hotel's past, but the owners refuse to comment. He departs Hohenau and heads to the municipal cemetery in the town of Ita, another clue from the Terror Files.
At the archive, we found a government document that said that Martin Bormann died in 1959 under the care of Josef Mengele. It said that immediately after he died, he was taken to the town of Ita and was buried in the municipal cemetery.
Geophysicist Neil Anderson has studied archaeological sites around the globe. Now he will help Wood examine Bormann's suspected gravesite. Anderson will use a ground-penetrating radar system, or GPR. The machine uses pulses of electromagnetic energy to show what lies underground. It will allow them to determine if Bormann's body was dug up and moved. The local gravedigger leads the men through a labyrinth of tightly packed graves. They come to a small plot that is unmarked.
So it was just in this small area?
Aquí, en este lugar,
Sí, en este lugar.
es la tumba.
Porque acá no hay ni cruz ni nada.
There's no cross,
mismo
there's
se-
nothing.
I was expecting a larger site. It would make it a little bit easier to use the GPR cart that we have, but it seems as though we'll have enough room to move the cart around and acquire data over this area. So let's grab the equipment.
Perfect.
Uki Goni has been tracking the path of SS officers fleeing Nazi Germany to the port city of Genoa, Italy. He's looking for information about how they got the documents needed to leave Europe.
We're at the offices of the main newspaper here in Genova. They've done some big research on the Nazis in this town.
Goni combs through the photographs and articles. Then, something startling.
Eichmann's Red Cross passport.
Adolf Eichmann is known as the architect of the Holocaust. Charged with the final solution, he organized the transportation of millions to the Nazi death camps. The passport allowed Eichmann to flee Europe in 1950, using the alias Ricardo Clement. The sponsor for the passport application was a priest from a local Genoa church.
We've got the addresses of the priest who signed these documents.
Goni finds a picture of the priest.
This is an exciting moment for me because I've been studying on these documents quite a few years about how the Nazis came through Italy on their way to South America. But now we've got the exact addresses where they stayed in Genoa, the names of the priests who helped them.
This could prove there was a true relationship between these organizations and Odessa.
We're going to go check out on these addresses of these churches, of these hotels where the Nazis stayed. We're going to put the documents up against hard reality and see what we come up with.
Mystery Quest is searching the globe, trying to explain how thousands of German SS officers vanished from Europe following World War II. For decades, rumors have swirled about a covert organization named Odessa that was dedicated to reviving the Nazi cause. Many believe the only way this could have happened is with the help of powerful organizations. The Red Cross passport of SS officer Adolf Eichmann was discovered in Genoa, Italy, and could be the key to verifying the group's existence. Uki Goni is at the Church of San Antonio di Pegli.
The reason we're here is because I found this copy in the archives of Eichmann's Red Cross passport, and it's signed by Father Eduardo Domotor. We were able to track him down. He was the priest here at San Antonio de Pegli.
Eichmann used the alias Ricardo Clement. Father Domotor of the church signed, verifying that Eichmann was actually Clement.
He came to this church, that's the first thing he did, to see Father Domotor, who took him to the Red Cross office to give him a passport. And he got it thanks to the church's intervention.
Goni sees a pattern.
Now, we know from other documents and other archives that Father Domotor was not acting alone, that he had the help and support of bishops in Rome.
The evidence seems to reveal the church at least had knowledge of an organized effort to help Nazis escape. But when Goni tries to get more information, he is turned away.
We asked for permission to film inside the church, to speak to the parish priest, to find if there were any records about Father Domotor, to see if there were any pictures of him. We weren't allowed, which probably goes to show how even 60 years on, some people are still trying to put a wall, between us and the information that would allow us to know exactly how this operation worked.
Goni begins looking for number 9 Balbi Street.
This is Via Balbi.
The location of an inn called the Pensione San Carlo that allegedly housed Eichmann before he left for South America.
This is it. This is Via Balbi number 9. This is the last place that Eichmann stayed, according to his Red Cross passport. And he's not the only one, because I know that other Nazis stayed here as well. All boarded up and closed up.
The inn looks as though it's been abandoned for decades. There's no way to get in, and no one to ask about its past. But right next door is a familiar sight.
There's the Church of San Carlo, next to the Pensione San Carlo. What we're seeing here is a pattern that seems to be repeating itself at the end of every single stage we've looked at. Like at the Brenner Pass, at the end, there's an inn next to a church. Here in Genoa, there's an inn next to a church. On this journey, we've come face to face with the real Odessa. But it's not the Odessa of fiction. It's actually much more shameful, much more compromising, much more gruesome.
In Paraguay, Mystery Quest is searching for more evidence that high-ranking SS officer Martin Bormann escaped here after the war. They believe they may have uncovered an unmarked grave where his remains were buried following his death here in South America. The team's theory is that Bormann's body was dug up and return to Germany as part of a cover-up. They'll use ground-penetrating radar to examine the grave to see if there's a body in it. The Bormann gravesite does show signs of being disturbed. In Paraguay, the graves are so shallow that bricks are placed on top of them for protection.
When the gentleman raked off the surface material, you see there are all sorts of broken brick fragments. It looks like they were broken with a sledgehammer. Over here, the bricks are in place in this area, but in this area they look like they'd been vandalized.
The team is ready to deploy the radar.
Graham, this is our ground-penetrating radar unit, the control system. As we acquire the data, the data will be displayed on the screen. And what we'll essentially be generating is a two-dimensional image of the subsurface.
The machine will pulse electromagnetic waves into the ground, which will bounce off any object in the subsurface, creating a U-shaped image.
Now, how precise is this? Will we be able to see bones?
You probably won't be able to see individual bones. What we're hoping more to see is an indication that the ground looks very chaotic, as though it was disturbed. If there is a casket in place, you would anticipate seeing reflections from the top of the casket and the base of the casket. If the soil is disturbed and we don't see a casket, one logical explanation would be that the soil was excavated. If something was ever in place at this location, it was moved.
The team will need to do multiple sweeps of the site before they can get a clear reading of what lies below.
Graham, this is really cool. We've acquired the data.
Mystery Quest has undertaken an expedition across the globe to try to unlock the mystery surrounding the covert Nazi organization known as Odessa. This forensic expert believes there was an elaborate cover-up of the death of a high-ranking SS officer. This geophysicist is looking for evidence of that cover-up. And this journalist believes he's found proof that Nazis were smuggled out of Europe through Italy. The science team is at the municipal cemetery in Ita, Paraguay, trying to prove Martin Bormann was originally buried here in 1959, but was later moved to Berlin. Neil Anderson has started running ground-penetrating radar, or GPR, over the plot to get a profile of what lies beneath the surface.
So as we're moving the antenna across the surface, we're continuously acquiring data, initially along the pathway immediately adjacent to the grave. And it is coming up on the monitor screen.
So what I see on the screen right now is some wavy lines up near the surface, and then some wavy lines about 3.5, 4 feet under.
Exactly. We're seeing evidence of layering, which suggests that the ground along this pathway doesn't look like it's been disturbed.
But the machine will make 4 more passes over the gravesite before a complete image of the subsurface is revealed.
This is so cool, Grant. On the other plot, what we're seeing is a real prominent U-shaped anomaly on each and every traverse. It suggests to me that there is a coffin buried on this plot. On Borman's plot, we acquired 5 traverses. What it indicated to us, and we both saw it very clearly, is that this, where Borman's alleged grave is, the ground is chaotic. It looks like it's been disturbed, but we're not seeing any objects that are still buried in the subsurface. If there was a coffin buried on Borman's plot, it's been removed.
The GPR readings confirm that something large was once buried in Borman's alleged plot, but was subsequently moved.
Even though the gravediggers said that Bormann was buried here before, there doesn't seem to be anything at all.
The disturbance of the grave seems to give validity to the claim Bormann was buried here. Mystery Quest has discovered some important new evidence that could help confirm the existence of Odessa. The expedition uncovered a never-before-seen map in an Austrian archive, revealing that a network of people were working together to smuggle Nazi war criminals to safety. The science team discovered the alleged grave of Martin Bormann in Paraguay.
Let's try that again.
And through the use of ground-penetrating radar, they were able to determine that a body was once there, but has since been moved.
What this journey really points out to us is what the real Odessa was like. We've seen how the church helped, priests helped. We know that industrialists in Germany were financing this escape. It's not one single group acting on its own. Rather, it's like interlocking gears, and where the gears meet and help each other along, that's the real Odessa.